welcome to Bennington Performing Arts Center, the home of Old Castle Theater Company. From all the staff and cast and crew, we'd like to say thank you so much for choosing to spend your night watching live theater. Woohoo! Tonight we're proud to present Bennington Community Theater's first full stage production after 2020 to continue and finish the Year of Mystery, started by the idea by Sally Sugarman, and we dedicate this show to her memory. We're very happy to have been able to complete that journey and bring it to you tonight. There's a lot of stuff coming up at BPAC, so if you want to know more about our programming, go to bpacvt.org. You'll get an e-blast once a week telling you all the things that are happening in our space coming up through the end of the year and into next year. I'd like to say first a thank you to our sponsors who make all of this possible. Jacqueline and Tony Morrow, the Gamers Grotto, and the Bennington Banner has been awesome helping us put this show out there to you. So a big round of applause for our sponsors. We can't do it without you, and you being here helps us continue our programming, but there's more ways that you can help. If you're interested in volunteering and being a part of Bennington Community Theater or BPAC, just contact us. You can do that through our website, as well as hit that donate button, because we will take your money at any time. It doesn't have to be just for a show. You can send us your money at any time, and we'll be glad to take it. Also, the best way that you can help us as well is by telling a friend. Coming to support the performing arts everywhere that you go. Go see an arts event and help us keep up the arts alive. There are 2 intermissions in tonight's performances. The first one we're calling a pause. It is only 5 minutes. It is a pause in the action. So we ask that unless you really need to get out of the theater and go do some business, go run and do that. But if you don't, feel free to stand up, do a little stretching like the actors do before they get on stage, and talk to your friend and do a little stretch. But it's a short intermission for 5 minutes. And the bar will not be open. After that, the second intermission is a full intermission at 10 minutes. The bar will be open. You're free to get up and move into the lobby, go do your business that you've been holding on to for a while, and get on back to the seats. I ask you now to please turn off all cell phones. Even if you think you did, please check it again. And also there are 2 exits, emergency exits, but we ask that everyone exit the way that you came in. So, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Jasper, the Executive Director for BPAC. And from all of us, thank you and enjoy the show.
I gather I'm the first one here. Will there be many others that the doctor didn't say in his letter? You did say you were Mrs. Dudley?
I didn't say, but I am. Do you want to go to your room or wait here? You'll be in the blue room.
How nice. I mean, how nice to have blue. It's always been my favorite color.
Well,
I think I'll wait here, if you don't mind.
suit yourself. Blue room's the first one on the right, top of the stairs.
I'll find it. Thank you.
I set dinner on the dining room sideboard at 6 sharp. You can serve yourselves. I clear up in the morning. I have breakfast ready for you at 9. That's the way I agreed to do. I can't keep the rooms up the way you'd like, but there's no one else you could get that would help me. I don't wait on people. What I agreed to, it doesn't mean I wait on people.
Of course.
I don't stay around after I set out dinner. Not after it begins to get dark. I leave before dark comes.
I know. Dr. Montague mentioned in his letter.
We live over in the town, 6 miles away.
Yes.
So there won't be anyone around. if you need help.
I understand.
We couldn't even hear you in the night.
I don't suppose...
No one could. No one lives any nearer than the town. No one will come any nearer than that.
I know.
In the night. In the dark. Someone else is here. I'll go now.
Mrs. Dudley. Mrs. Dudley? Thank heaven someone else has come. I mean, I was beginning to feel sort of remote here. I'm Eleanor Vance.
How do you do? And please don't apologize. It's this bloody house. 2 minutes and already it's given me the cold chills. I'm Theodora. Just Theodora.
Welcome to Hill House. I guess that this used to be the embalming room. I hate to think what it's like upstairs.
It's the home I've always dreamed of. A little hideaway where I can be alone with my thoughts. Particularly if they happen to be about murder or suicide.
You'll be in the green room.
Oh?
Do you want to go up now or wait here?
Well, since you put it so graciously, I think I'll stay here a while. If Eleanor doesn't object.
Suit yourself. But I get settled before dark if I were you. I leave then, and there won't be anyone around. If you need help.
Charming soul.
She walks without making a sound.
What?
It's nothing, just that it's so utterly quiet here. As if the house wanted silence, and she was afraid not to obey.
Afraid? Dear girl, how long have you been here?
Not long, really. I came just before you did. But that's another thing. Time seems alien here, too.
You're probably just hungry. I'm starved myself, and nothing unsettles me more than that. I snap and snarl and imagine all sorts of things.
Maybe you're right. It does seem a long time since I stopped for lunch. I hope Mrs. Dudley's a good cook. Did she give you a full recital of what she does here?
Oh, yes. I don't wait on people. What I agree to, it doesn't mean I wait on people.
And she won't come if we scream in the night.
It was not what she agreed to.
But I'd rather not be all alone either. I hope our rooms are near.
They connect. Laughing girl told me.
Did it again.
What did what again?
The door closing by itself.
Oh. Well, maybe the house wants them closed.
But it happened before.
Of course it did. Poor baby, you are starving. Now, tell me about yourself and the mysterious Dr. Montague. I presume you're here because of his invitation?
I am, but he's a mystery to me too. All I know is that he wrote to me that he was interested in the analysis of supernatural manifestations and that he had taken Hill House for the summer. It has a reputation for, I think he called it psychic activity.
He didn't actually come out and call it haunted?
Not in so many words. He did say he thought it would be helpful to have others present who were, well, sensitive to abnormal disturbances. Actually, he was very scientific about it, being a professor and all that. I suppose he thought we might find it interesting too.
Do you think we will?
I don't know. It's not the sort of thing one dreams and plans about. My experience with psychic activity is hardly extensive. It was just the one time and I was only a child.
Can you tell me about it?
Of course. It was just after my father died. I was 12 and my sister was 18. One day, showers of stones began to fall on the house. Not on any other house in the block, but just on ours. Mother said it was the neighbors because they never liked us and didn't want us on the block. People came from all over to watch, and the stones kept falling on and off for 3 days. Dropping from the ceiling, rolling down the walls, breaking windows, pattering on the roof. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. Then my sister and I went to stay with a friend and the stones stopped. They never came back again, but there was quite a lot of publicity about it, and I suppose that Dr. Montague remembered.
Do you still live in the house?
I left after Mother died. Now I have a little place of my own in the city. It's bright and snug, not dark and cold like this awful place.
Well, you seemed willing enough to come.
Why not? I had the time free, and it did sound sort of intriguing and different. Anyway, my brother-in-law checked up on Dr. Montague to make sure it was all okay. But what about you? You're here too.
I guess I was just as curious as you were, and perhaps a bit flattered at being asked. Also, I had spat with my roommate and decided I wanted to be somewhere else for a while. Now I'm not so sure.
Did something happen to you too? I mean, to make Dr. Montague invite you.
Oh Lord, I'm famous! I'm the girl who can identify 19 cards out of 20 every time when they're held up out of sight. They call it extrasensory perception, and I'm loaded with it. If the house is haunted, I should be the first one to know, but still, I don't think I ever imagined that there would be something like a hill house. Reading cards without seeing them is one thing, but coming here is another. Somehow you don't expect places like this to actually exist.
But some of us go around hoping.
Well, anyways, we're fellow babes in the woods, so let's get settled and stick together. Do you think we should check in with Mrs. Dudley or just go up to our rooms?
She probably watches every move we make anyway. Part of what she agreed to.
Agreed to with whom, I wonder? Count Dracula?
You think he lives in Hill House?
I think he spends all his weekends here. I swear I saw bats in the woodwork out there. Come on, let's see what horror awaits upstairs.
All right. Incidentally, did you notice that door? I tried to open it before you came, but it's locked.
Oh. Let's explore. Maybe we'll find the secret of Hill House. Or the place where Dr. Montague conducts his weird experiments. Dark as night. Dark as those black hills that surround Hill House. Did you notice them? It seemed as though they wanted to fall on me when I arrived.
They won't fall on you. They'll just slide down, silently and secretly, rolling over you if you try to run away.
Thank you. What Mrs. Dudley has started, you have completed nicely. I shall pack and go home at once.
Please don't say that. I couldn't stay here alone. Not now.
Poor Eleanor. I was only teasing. I think you're afraid. I think you've been afraid the whole time, ever since we've been here. You mustn't be afraid all the time. We'll be all right together.
You'd better come now. I'll show you your rooms. I set dinner on the sideboard at 6 o'clock sharp, and then I go. I don't stay around after that.
Not when it's dark.
That's right. I'm gone before it gets dark.
And you won't hear us if we scream in the night.
Nobody will. You'll see. Nobody will hear you. We'd better go now.
Shall we? It might be nice to freshen up before dinner. Maybe we'll have time for a walk.
After you, I insist.
Oh, thanks a lot. Spirits, watch out. Theodora is coming.
And Eleanor, her long-lost cousin Eleanor.
Oh, yes, of course. Maybe we are cousins and long lost.
But we'll never be separated again.
Or afraid, right?
Of course. What's there to be afraid of?
Ah, here we are, the small party. Come in, my boy, come in. It's much the most pleasant room in the house, believe me.
I think you mean it.
I do. I can tell you I've seen far worse in my work.
That's reassuring. There'll be others coming, I trust.
They're here, two charming ladies. Mrs. Dudley informed me that they've gone out to explore the grounds.
Alone?
Of course. My dear boy, I don't know what your aunt has told you about Hill House, but there's no physical danger to any of us.
Have you explained that to Mrs. Dudley?
I would venture to guess that no one explains anything to Mrs. Dudley. Not even Mr. Dudley. But let's not give rein to our imaginations. Our interest is scientific, and I am more pleased than I can say to think that we are all here safely and on time, and with the fascinating secrets of Hill House awaiting our investigation.
Like a package under the Christmas tree.
If you will. I believe the ladies have returned. If you'll join me. This way, ladies. Can you hear my voice?
Is there a light? It's black as pitch out here.
You're doing fine. Open the door directly ahead of you. That's it. Ladies, welcome. Come inside. I am Dr. Montague.
Theodora.
Of course. Welcome to Hill House. And you are Miss Vance. So pleased that you both could come. This is Luke Sanderson. Miss Vance and Miss...
Just Theodora. Last names mean so little.
How true. My pleasure.
But your last name means something. At least here. You're one of the family, aren't you? I mean, Hill House is yours.
I can't deny it. At present, my aunt holds title, but someday this stately pile will probably belong to me. Worse luck. Until then, however, I'm here as one of Dr. Montague's guests. My first visit, I might add, so this is all new to me, too.
Mrs. Sanderson, Luke's aunt, agreed to allow me a short lease to carry out my research on condition that a member of the family be one of my party. We're fortunate that Luke was able to fulfill her request.
They hope I'll dissuade them from digging up the lovely old scandals.
Scandals? Were there really?
Indeed there were. We'll get to that in due time. For now, perhaps a bit of sherry might be appealing before we go into dinner. Luke, my boy, would you do the honors?
Delighted.
I could use something. I'm still a bit shaky after that rabbit.
We, you see, are two little girls who were planning a picnic down by the brook and got scared home by a rabbit.
I go in mortal fear of rabbits myself.
If that's what it was.
Oh, what else do you think it might have been?
I don't know. We were down by the brook and I felt as though someone or something was watching us on the hill across the brook. And then it moved. But I couldn't see anything, only the grass bending.
It was a rabbit. What else?
Exactly. What else? Ah, thank you. Again, welcome to Hill House and to our success here.
How would one reckon success exactly in a situation like this?
Well, let's just say that I hope all of us have an exciting visit, and that the book which I shall write about our findings will rock my colleagues back on their heels.
Hear, hear.
You see, your visit here will be something more than a vacation. I am hopeful of your working, or at least helping me to attain as thorough an understanding as possible of all that might happen while we're here.
How, Doctor?
With notes. Notes on everything you see, or hear, or feel. As complete and detailed as you can manage. It shouldn't prove an unbearable task.
So long as no one makes any puns about mixing spirits and spirits. May I?
Spirits? Oh, of course. Spirits indeed.
Everything's so strange. I mean, this morning I was wondering what Hill House would be like, and now I can't believe that it's all quite real and we're here.
Since we are all here, shouldn't we get better acquainted? We only know names so far. For example, I know that it is Eleanor here who is wearing the red sweater. So, consequently, it must be you, Theodora, who wears green.
Dr. Montague has a beard, so you must be Luke.
And you are Theodora because I am Eleanor.
I have no beard, so he must be Dr. Montague.
Exactly. And I have a beard. Well, it's because my wife likes them.
Well then, now that I know which of us is me, let me identify myself further. I am, in private life, let me see, a bullfighter. Toro! Toro!
And I am an artist's model. I live a mad, abandoned life, draped in a shawl and going from garret to garret.
Are you heartless and wanton?
Are you losing your beauty and coughing a good deal?
I rather think I have a heart of gold. At any rate, my affairs are the talk of the cafes.
And I am the daughter of the lord of the manor. Ordinarily I go clad in silk and lace, but I've borrowed my maid's finery to appear among you tonight. I may, of course, become so enamored of the common life that I will never go back. And the poor girl will have to get herself new clothes. And you, Dr. Montague?
Pilgrim. A wanderer.
Truly a congenial little group. Hill House has surely never seen our like.
I'll give the honor to Hill House. I've never seen its like. This room, for example. What on earth do they call it?
A parlor, perhaps. I considered that we might be more comfortable here than in one of the other rooms. It's well located to serve as a sort of center of operations. It may not be cheerful.
Of course it's cheerful. There's nothing more exhilarating than maroon upholstery and oak paneling. And what is that over there? The door to the snake pit?
Tomorrow you will see it all for yourselves. We'll explore the entire house. As for that door, it leads into the stone tower, which you might have noticed as you came up the drive.
But that was at the far end of the house. Here we're in the middle without even a window.
So it seems. Let's just say the house has its little oddities. I've studied a map of it, and I still can't quite explain the reasoning to you. For example, when we go into dinner, which the now departed Mrs. Dudley has spread for us, we will go through that door, down the passage, into the front hall, and then across the hall, and through the billiard room, and into the dining room. Roundabout, isn't it? But I'm sure you'll find it easy with practice.
Someone is going to have to lead me. I'd starve if I had to find it on my own.
But why so many little rooms?
Maybe they like to hide from each other.
That would explain why everything is so dark.
Some of the rooms are entirely inside rooms, therefore poorly lighted. However, a series of closed rooms is not altogether surprising in a house of this period. However, tomorrow...
We ought to make a practice of leaving the doors open.
You'd have to prop them with something then. Every door in this house swings shut when you let go of it.
Well, I'll make our first note. Door stops. Lots of them. Now, shall we see about dinner?
Do you think we should? When I look at this house and remember our dear old Mrs. Dudley.
Yes, what keeps her here?
And her husband, if that specter I saw at the gate was Mr. Dudley.
Well, the Dudleys have taken care of Hill House as long as anyone can remember. The arrangement seems to be satisfactory to all concerned.
Perhaps she and Dudley hoard their gold in a secret chamber. Or there's oil under the house.
There are no secret chambers in Hill House. The possibility has been suggested, of course, but I think I may say with assurance that no such romantic devices exist here. But tomorrow...
In any case, oil is definitely old hat. Nowadays it's uranium. Perhaps the Dudleys plan to murder me in cold blood for the uranium.
Or just for the pure fun of it.
Yes, but why are we here?
Just what I was going to ask. Why are we here? What's wrong with Hill House? What's going to happen?
Tomorrow!
No. We are 3 adult, intelligent people, Doctor, and we have all come a long way to meet you here at Hill House. We want to know why.
I second the motion.
Why did you ask us to come, Doctor? How did you know about Hill House, and why does it have such a reputation, and what really goes on here?
Actually, I know less than I might wish about Hill House, except by reputation. Although I intended to tell you everything I do know. As for what is going to happen, well, I will learn that when you do. But tomorrow is soon enough to talk about it, I think.
Not for me. Not if I'm going to get any sleep.
I assure you that Hill House will be quiet tonight. There's a pattern in these things.
I really think we ought to talk it over now.
We're not afraid.
Well, suppose you heard the story of Hill House and decided not to stay. Now, how would you leave tonight? Hill House has a reputation for insistent hospitality. The last person who tried to leave in darkness, it was 18 years ago, I grant you, he was killed at the turn in the drive. Their horse bolted and crushed him against the big tree.
But we're not going to run away, are we?
Stoutly, upon the ramparts.
You are a mutinous group of assistants. All right, I'll be as brief as I can. To be frank, I didn't know just how best to prepare the 3 of you for Hill House. I couldn't put it all in a letter, and even now I'm reluctant to influence your minds with its complete history before you've had a chance to see all of the house for yourselves. To talk about it this way could be misleading.
Don't give it a thought, Doctor. I'm sure we're all in the mood for a ghost story.
Well, that's hardly what I have in mind. We're not children trying to frighten one another.
Sorry. Just trying to get myself used to all of this.
We must exercise great caution in our language. Preconceived notions of ghosts and apparitions.
The disembodied hand in the soup!
My dear boy, if you please, what I want to say is that our purpose here is scientific and exploratory. We cannot let it be affected or even warped by spooky stories which would be better told around a campfire. We're here to test certain theories regarding psychic phenomena. As a matter of fact, it would be better if you knew nothing about Hill House. Ideally, you should be ignorant and receptive.
And take notes.
And take notes, yes. However, since you press me, let me put it this way. There is a concept that certain houses are unclean or forbidden, just as others, like churches, for example, have atmospheres of holiness and goodness. Perhaps you could say some houses are born bad. Hill House, whatever the cause, has been unfit for human habitation for some 20 years. And what it was like before then, whether its personality was molded by the people who lived here or the things they did, or whether it was evil from its start, I do not know. I hope, however, some of these questions will be answered before we leave. But no one knows even why some houses are called haunted.
What else could you call Hill House?
Disturbed, perhaps, or sick, or leprous, although haunted will do. And yet, there are always those who are ready to discount the eerie or mysterious. What I call psychic disturbances, they will ascribe to subterranean waters, or electric currents, polluted air, even sunspots. Anything to just bring it all out in the open and give a clear explanation to it. But you see, sometimes it isn't so easily done. I have checked with every tenant who has tried to live in Hill House. They've all left hastily. And everyone has given a natural reason for doing so. The dampness, pressing business elsewhere, and so forth. And yet, when I questioned them further on it, they were unwilling to talk about it. They all agreed on one point. They urged me to stay as far away from Hill House as possible. They thought it should be burned down, and its secrets with it.
Then there was a scandal.
Very definitely. With madness, suicide, and lawsuits.
It's harder to burn down a house than you think.
But the truth of the house, its reason for being haunted, for want of a better term, remains to be probed. Well, that is why I am here, and why I have invited you to join me. You, Theodora, because of your telepathic ability, and you, Eleanor, because of your involvement in poltergeist phenomena. Perhaps together we can induce the power of Hill House to reveal itself.
But that was so long ago, I hardly remember.
But why, Doctor? I can accept that Hill House is supposed to be haunted, and you want us to keep track of what happens, but what's here? What frightens people so?
I will not put a name to what has no name. I don't know. But perhaps before we leave...
I never really knew what was going on. My mother said it was the neighbors.
I think that all we want is facts. Something we can understand and put together.
Exactly. But the first question is this. Do you want to leave now, before you become more deeply involved?
No. And I'm sorry about this afternoon. The rabbit, I mean. I shouldn't have let myself get so frightened.
Nonsense. You were no more frightened than I was, and we were both scared to death.
Horrible creatures, rabbits.
I think we all had cause for nervousness. Just turning the corner and seeing Hill House for the first time was a rude shock.
I thought he was going to send the car into a tree.
I don't think we could leave now if we wanted to. Mrs. Dudley would never forgive us.
Of course. But to go on. Hill House was built some 80 years ago by a man named Hugh Crane. It was meant as a country home for his family and was quite luxurious by the standards of its time. From the beginning, it was a sad house. Hugh Crane's young wife died minutes before she was to set her eyes on the house for the first time. Her carriage overturned in the driveway. She was crushed to death. Hugh Crane was a sad and bitter man, but he had 2 small daughters to bring up, so he did not leave Hill House.
Children grew up here?
Why not? The climate is quite good, actually, and there is no dampness despite the rumor. Lonely, perhaps, but not an unhealthy place on the face of it.
Poor little things.
Their father married again. Twice more, as a matter of fact. The second Mrs. Crane died of a fall. The third of consumption at a European health resort. Now, Crane had left his 2 daughters here in the care of a governess, but when his third wife died, he closed the house, remained abroad, and sent his daughters to live with a cousin of their mother's.
I hope their lives were jollier after that. It's not good to think of children growing up like mushrooms in this dark place.
To be honest, the 2 sisters never got along too well, and after the father died and left Hill House to them jointly, the bickering over it went on until the younger sister married.
Stole her sister's beau, no doubt.
Perhaps so. At any rate, it was said that the older sister was crossed in love. She came here to live, alone at first, until she found a village girl to stay with her as housekeeper and companion. The younger sister began to make trouble again. She said that she had assigned her share in Hill House to her sister on the condition that she be given certain heirlooms, which she claimed she never received. A set of gold-rimmed dishes was one bone of contention.
I don't like this younger sister. First she steals her sister's lover, and then she goes after the dishes, too.
Things got worse, unfortunately. After the older sister died, the companion insisted that Hill House had been left to her. Now, the younger sister and her husband went to court trying to prove that the older sister had been tricked into signing away her property. There was even a suggestion of murder. Well, they lost their case, but they never stopped trying to get the house back by any means. At one point, the companion was forced to ask for police protection. Now, people in the area sided with the younger sister, so the companion was not only bedeviled, but friendless. Eventually, she killed herself.
Killed herself? She had to do that.
You mean, was there no other way of escaping her tormentors? Apparently she didn't think so. Although local rumor had it that she chose suicide because her guilty conscience drove her to it. She was tenacious, but the constant nagging persecution just wore her down. She was also convinced that the younger sister came into the house at night to steal things, despite all the locks and bolts.
She should have gone away, as far as she could go.
In a sense, she did. She hanged herself from the turret of the stone tower beyond that door. After her death, the house passed on to her cousins, the Sandersons. Now, the sister gave them trouble too, but always insisted that she would not, and had not, come into the house at night, even to steal things.
Was anything ever really stolen?
Well, let's say no proof was ever given. Although the story of a nightly intruder did enhance the reputation of the house still further.
Suicide, murder, and burglary. A happy place, this.
The sister eventually died, but the Sandersons never did live in Hill House. And they told people they planned to do so, and even spent a few days here. Then they cleared out, and nobody has lived here since, except for a day or so at a time.
Those 2 poor little girls. I can't forget them. Walking through these dark rooms, trying to play dolls, maybe, in here, or in those awful bedrooms upstairs.
And the old house has just been sitting here. Nothing in it touched, nothing used, nothing here wanted by anyone anymore. Just sitting here, pondering the past.
And waiting.
And waiting. Essentially, the evil is in the house itself, I think. It has enchained and destroyed its people and their lives. It is a place of contained ill will. Well, enough of that. The Sandersons have put in electricity and plumbing, but tomorrow you shall see it all for yourselves. Nothing else has been changed. Now, I would suggest that we repair to the dining room and find out what delights Mrs. Dudley has left for us. One pleasant rumor about this place is she's a rather good cook. Let's hope so.
It's probably bat stew.
And cobweb pudding.
Oh yes, one other thing. It may seem incomprehensible to you now, but a place like this, sometimes it can begin to affect you without you really being aware. I don't mean what will occur outwardly, but what might happen to you inwardly, as it were. I want you to promise me that if you feel the house catching at you, you will tell me immediately. Our value here is as a team, clear-headed and objective team.
I promise. Scout's honor. I'm with you and against this bloody house.
I echo the sentiment. But all this talk has made me hungrier than I realized.
Well, we can do something about that. And if you do as I ask, we should be able to answer some other questions as well. After you, I insist.
Many thanks. And I wouldn't be concerned about your team, Doctor. I'm sure we'll all be very comfortable here. Productive, too.
Of course, my boy, of course. Very comfortable indeed. Why shouldn't we be?
Theo? Theo?
I'll be right there. Open the door if you want to.
What were you doing? It was so quiet in there.
I was painting my nails, silly. What? Did you think the goblins got me? See? Red. I love decorating myself. Someday I'll paint myself all over.
With gold paint, no doubt.
Nail polish and perfume. And maybe mascara. Don't laugh. You should think more of such things yourself.
No time.
Poor Eleanor. I shall take you in hand and make a different person of you. I don't like being with women of no color. Maybe I'll put red polish on your toes. Right now.
Oh, no, you won't.
Surely a famous courtesan such as yourself is accustomed to the ministrations of handmaidens.
I hate having things done to me.
Well, you're about as crazy as anyone I ever saw.
I don't like to feel helpless. My mother,
Your mother would have been delighted to see you with red toenails.
it's wicked. I mean, on my feet. It would make me feel like a fool.
You've got foolishness and wickedness mixed up. Just think how pleasantly surprised Dr. Montague and Luke would be.
Everything I say, you make it sound foolish.
Or wicked. You know what I think now? I think you ought to go home.
I don't want to go. Why should I?
Because you're still afraid. And you have been ever since we've been here.
No. I was an idiot this afternoon about the rabbit. It was a surprise, that's all. It's only that I'm tired. I'm not used to driving as far as I did today.
You do look pale. You should be in bed. I'll go to my room.
Don't go! Not yet. Couldn't we talk a while? I think I'm too restless to sleep right away.
Of course. Matter of fact, I think we'll all have lots of chance for rest while we're here. Just between us, I think it's going to be pretty dull.
We'll find plenty to do in the morning.
At home, there would be people around. Lots of talk and laughter. Lights and excitement, that's for me.
I suppose I don't need such things. There never was much excitement while I was taking care of Mother. When she was asleep, I'd play solitaire or listen to the radio. I couldn't read in the evenings, not after reading aloud to her every afternoon. Her illness went on for so many years.
You make me feel foolish now. Shallow and selfish.
Why should you?
Because I worry about there being nothing to amuse me. Tell me how horrible I am.
You're horrible.
But you are sweet and pleasant, and everyone likes you very much. Luke has fallen madly in love with you, and I'm jealous.
What nonsense.
Not at all. Now, I want to know more about you. Did you really have to take care of your mother for a long time?
11 years, until she died 3 months ago.
Were you sorry when she died? Should I say how sorry I am?
No. She wasn't very happy,
And neither were you.
and neither was I.
But what about now? What did you do when she died?
Sold the house and everything else my sister didn't want,
Everything.
just as soon as I could.
And then you started the mad, gay fling that brought you inevitably to his house.
Not exactly.
But after all those wasted years, didn't you go on a cruise, look for exciting young men, buy new clothes, something?
Unfortunately, there wasn't much money. I did buy some new clothes to come to Hill House.
And what about when you go back? Do you have a job?
No, no job right now. I don't know quite what I'll do.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn up every light in the apartment and just bask.
What is your apartment like?
Nice. It's an old place, but we did it up ourselves, my roommate and I. We painted it red and white and did over a lot of old furniture we dug up in junk shops. We both love doing over old things. Tell me where you live.
I have a little place of my own, like yours, only I live alone. I'm still furnishing it, buying things one at a time so they'll be just right. It has to be exactly how I want it, because it's only me to use it. Right now, I'm looking for a little blue cup with stars painted on the inside. I had one when I was a little girl. When you looked into it, when the milk was all gone, it seemed almost full of stars. I want a cup like that again.
Maybe I'll find one for you. And I'll send it to you. And one day you'll get a little package with a note that reads, "To Eleanor, with love, her friend, Theodora." and it will be a little blue cup full of stars. But right now, Theodora is sleepy. What do you say to bedtime?
I wonder if the others are in bed.
Most likely. The doctor's probably reading a horror story for relaxation.
I'll bet their doors are locked. Mine is.
Mine too. But I'll leave this one ajar. If you feel the least bit nervous, call out. Promise?
I will. And Theo, thank you for talking. It won't really be dull here. Not if we have each other to talk to.
Good night.
Good night. Sleep tight. Coming, Mother. Coming. It's all right. I'm coming. Just a minute. I'm coming.
Eleanor!
Coming, Mother. Coming.
Eleanor! Did you hear it?
Theodora.
Was it just my imagination? Didn't you hear it?
Hear what? What's wrong?
Something is knocking on the doors. Down at the other end of the hall. I didn't mean to upset you. Probably the doctor and Luke are already there to see what's going on. It just surprised me. That's all. I was fast asleep.
Theodora. It's getting closer.
Only noise. That's all it can be. Listen. It has an echo.
Where are they? Why don't they come?
Maybe it will go down on the other side of the hall.
Go away! Go away!
There. You see, it's gone. Come on. You're freezing. Come on, back to bed with you.
I'm cold. Deadly cold.
So am I. There. Warmer now?
Where's Luke? Where's the doctor?
I don't know. Are you warmer?
No.
In a minute, I'll go out in the hall and call them. Are you? Is it stopping?
No. It's found us. It's looking for someone and it found us. No, I know why people scream because I think that I'm going to.
I love you, Will. Wait. You scared me to lock the door.
You can't go!
We've been clutching each other like a couple of lost children. Are you all right?
Is it really over?
For tonight, at least. Can't you tell? Aren't you warm again all of a sudden?
Yes. Warmer.
Here come Luke and the doctor. I'll let them in.
Don't let them knock. Please. I couldn't bear it.
All right. Just try to relax now. We're safe. This way, gentlemen. We're in here.
Why, you look as though you'd seen a ghost.
Very funny. Come in.
They're both in Eleanor's room, Doctor.
Well, how do you like living in a haunted house?
It's perfectly fine. Gives me an excuse to have a drink in the middle of the night. Could I interest you?
Are you all right? Did anything happen up here while we were outside?
No. Nothing in particular. someone knocked on the door with a cannonball and then tried to get in and eat us. It started laughing its head off when we wouldn't open the door. But no, nothing really out of the way.
I thought the whole door was going to shatter. But there isn't even a scratch on the wood. It's still perfectly smooth.
How nice it didn't mar the woodwork. I couldn't bear it if this dear old house got hurt. Nellie here was going to scream.
So were you.
Not at all. I only said that to keep you company. Besides, Mrs. Dudley already said she wouldn't come. And where were you, our manly defenders?
We were chasing a dog. Or at least some animal like a dog. We followed it outside.
You mean it was inside?
I saw it run past my door. Just a glimpse of it slipping by. I woke Luke and we followed it down the stairs and out to the garden. We lost it somewhere back of the house.
The front door was open.
No, it was closed. So were all the other doors. We checked.
Could it be? You see, we've been wandering around outside for quite a while. We never dreamed that you ladies were awake until we heard your voices. Your story makes me wonder about something. Something perhaps we haven't taken into account. Let me explain. It's clear that Luke and I were awakened earlier than you ladies. Perhaps deliberately. We've been up and about, inside and out, for better than 2 hours, led on what seems to have been a wild goose chase. But during all that time, neither of us heard any sound from up here until just a few minutes ago. It was perfectly quiet. But then, when we gave up our search and decided to come upstairs, we heard your voices. Well, now it appears that in coming, we drove away whatever was waiting outside your door. And now, as we remain together, all is quiet.
I don't quite see what you're driving at.
We must take precautions.
Precautions.
Against what? How?
Well, let me put it this way. When Luke and I are lured outside and you two are kept imprisoned inside, doesn't it begin to seem as though the intention is somehow to separate us?
As long as I'm prepared for it, like I'll sleep well the night before, right?
Now? There you are. We were worried about you.
I had enough chatter.
You're getting quite brave. You know our rule. No one is to go off alone.
I can find my way in here safely enough. Anyway, it's worth the risk to get away from Luke's silly talk for a while.
Is it really that bad? Good heavens, that makes me feel shallow. I find him rather amusing.
You know what I mean? He's never serious about anything.
Maybe he's compensating for a deep-seated insecurity. He did say he never had a mother. Poor boy.
That's no excuse for treating everything as a joke.
Including you, perhaps? Could it be you wish Luke were a little more, shall we say, aggressively friendly? After all, he's not exactly ugly. Not that. Well, maybe it's that you object to Luke's attitude about this whole haunted house thing. He does seem to take it all pretty lightly. Maybe if his door got pounded on.
You know how I feel about that.
Do I?
I agree with Dr. Montague. These supernatural manifestations reflect certain qualities of Hill House. They would probably occur no matter who happened to be here, and they have nothing to do with us in particular. And I, for one, have decided not to let them bother me.
I think you want to mean that. Matter of fact, though, I'm beginning to think that this curious life agrees with you. You look radiant.
So do you.
Really? That is strange, though. By rights, we ought to be going around looking haggard with dark circles under our eyes, but here we are, two blooming, fresh young lovelies.
Not quite. Not at my age. Freshness is a flatterer's term when you're past 30.
Oh, well, you look about 14.
May we join you? Our discussion of world affairs has grown rather stale without the feminine point of view to leaven it. Right, Doctor?
Exactly my thoughts.
Flatterers. You both know very well we were going over what happened the other night. Any answers yet?
No conclusive ones, but, and this may or may not be related, I find I'm sleeping wonderfully well, and the food tastes better than ever.
Perhaps Mrs. Dudley is surpassing herself.
Whatever the explanation, I consider it uniquely exciting to be a part of something so fraught with psychic potential. There should be a great deal to report to the outside world when our investigations are concluded.
Is there still a world out there? I'm sure Mrs. Dudley goes somewhere else at night, and it must be that our food comes from a place with stores and lights and people. But as far as I can clearly remember, there is no other place but this.
We are on a desert island.
I can't picture any world but Hill House.
Maybe we should make notches on a stick, or pile pebbles in a heap so we know how long we've been marooned.
Actually, I find it quite pleasant not having any word from outside. No letters, no newspapers. Think what might be happening out there.
We'll soon know what's going on. As I mentioned to you, Mrs. Montague will be here this morning.
We'll be delighted to see her, of course.
I imagine she's holding high hopes of things going bump in the night. Maybe a Hill House will outdo itself and greet her with a volley of psychic experiences.
Mrs. Montague will be more than ready to receive them, I assure you.
It's been so quiet. Perhaps Hill House is biding its time until she arrives.
Or waiting until we feel secure so it can pounce on us.
I've been trying to remember more about that night. I can recall knowing that I was frightened, but I can't imagine actually being frightened.
I remember the quote.
I think it's because it was so unreal by any pattern of thought I'm used to. It just didn't make sense.
I agree. This morning I had to convince myself again that it all happened. Almost the reverse of a bad dream where you keep telling yourself that it didn't really happen.
Well, I found it fascinating.
Remember, it is still perfectly possible it was all caused by subterranean waters or some such phenomenon. Mrs. Montague would certainly have more thoughts along that line when she arrived.
Then hooray for Secret Springs, I say.
I wish you were not quite so positive about that. What you feel is exciting for sure, but might it not also be dangerous? Perhaps an effect of the atmosphere of Hill House, the first sign that we have, as it were, fallen under a spell.
Why not? I shall be an enchanted princess.
And yet, if the other night was a true measure of Hill House, we aren't going to have any real trouble. We were frightened, of course, and the experience was unpleasant while it was going on, but I can't remember that I sensed any physical danger. Even when Theodora said that whatever was outside her door was coming to eat her.
But I know what she meant. It was exactly the right word. I felt as though it wanted to consume us, take us into itself, make us part of the house.
I thought you were the girl who wasn't bothered by all this.
No physical danger exists, I can assure you of that. No ghost in all the long histories of ghosts has ever hurt anyone physically. The only damage is done by the victim to himself. One cannot even say that the ghost attacks the mind, because the mind, the conscious thinking mind, is invulnerable. As in all our conscious minds, as we sit here talking, there is not one iota of real belief in ghosts. No, the menace of the supernatural is in that it attacks where modern minds are weakest, where we have abandoned our protective armor of superstition without developing a substitute defense. Not one of us thinks rationally that what ran through the garden was a ghost, or what that knocked on the door was a ghost. But there was certainly something going on in Hill House, and the mind's instinctive refuge, self-doubt, is eliminated. And neither can we say it was imagination. And after all, 3 others were there too.
I could say that all 3 of you are in my imagination, that none of this is real.
If I thought you could really believe that, I would send you home this morning. You would be coming far too close to the state of mind that would welcome the perils of Hill House with a kind of sisterly embrace.
He means he would think you were baddie now. Oh, dear.
Well, I suppose I would be. If I had to take sides with Hill House against the rest of you, I'd expect you to send me home.
Poltergeists are another thing altogether. They deal entirely with the physical world. They throw stones, they move objects, they smash dishes. But they're also the rock bottom of the supernatural social scale. Destructive, but mindless, and will-less, too. They are merely undirected force. Do you recall Oscar Wilde's story, The Canterville Ghost?
The American twins who routed the final English ghost.
Exactly. I've always liked the notion that the American twins were actually a poltergeist phenomenon. To be sure, poltergeists can overshadow more interesting manifestations. Bad ghosts drive out good, you might say. Does that amuse you? I could give you a good many documented instances, you know.
I'm sure you can, Doctor. And I apologize if I seem to be rude. It's just that I was suddenly aware of how serious all this is to us. And yet, no one outside would believe a word of what we say.
Perhaps not.
Well, I'm, again, fascinated, and I say on with it. What shall we do today?
Oh, really, you are a pack of children, always asking me what to do today. Can't you amuse yourself? I have work to do.
Don't forget the cold spot, Doctor.
Ah, yes, there's your answer. You're welcome to help Luke and myself measure the cold spot just outside the nursery doorway.
No, thank you.
All I really want to do is slide down that wonderful banister in the front hall.
Or how about a game of hide and seek?
Well, just try not to wander around alone too much. I can't think of a good reason why not, but it does seem sensible.
Because there are bears in the woods.
And tigers in the attic.
And an old witch in the tower, plus a dragon in the drawing room.
But I'm quite serious. I agree we mustn't let our imaginations run riot. But then again, there's no reason to be foolhardy either. Oh. Yes, do you need something, Mrs. Dudley?
I clear after breakfast. I made that plain when you came.
And I believe it's the dining room that needs clearing.
It's clear, but there's a cup and saucer gone. I have to put them all back on the shelves each time. It's what I agreed to do.
Just a moment, Mrs. Dudley. Are you suggesting...
It's all right, Doctor. I'm afraid I'm the guilty party. I was finishing my coffee in here.
I clear after breakfast. I set lunch at 1. Dinner I set on at 6, and I clear each time. They all go back on the shelves each time. That's the way it's done.
Of course. We mustn't interfere with your duties.
Really? That woman is beyond belief.
At 11 o'clock, I feed the vampires. It's part of what I agreed to.
I don't wait on people, just vampires.
Now, we mustn't make fun of Mrs. Dudley. She does what she agreed to do. No, I mean it. But she is annoying, I'll admit. Now I suddenly find that what I want most is more coffee. What do you say we demand it and see what happens?
You mean go right in there and ask Mrs. Dudley?
Walk right up to her when it isn't 1 o'clock or 6 o'clock and just ask for coffee?
Yes, I think so. Luke, my boy, I have observed that you are already something of a favorite with Mrs. Dudley.
And how did you ever manage to observe anything so unlikely? Mrs. Dudley regards me with the same particular loathing she gives a cup and saucer not in their proper places at the proper time.
Well, you are, after all, the heir to the house. Mrs. Dudley must feel for you as an old family retainer feels for the young master.
Ooh. You are a romantic sort, Doctor, but I assure you that in Mrs. Dudley's estimation, I am lower than a dropped fork. If you are really serious about asking the old fool for something, send Theo or our charming Nell. They aren't afraid.
No, you don't. You can't send a helpless female to face down Mrs. Dudley. Nell and I are here to be protected, not to man the battlements for you cowards.
Well, then you, Doctor.
Oh, come now. You really wouldn't think of asking me, an older man? Anyway, you know she adores you.
Dear, dear. You're willing to sacrifice me for a cup of coffee. Well, do not be surprised, and I say it darkly, do not be surprised if you lose your Luke in this cause. Perhaps Mrs. Dudley hasn't yet had her own mid-morning snack, and she is perfectly capable of a filet de Luc à la Meunière. If I do not return, I entreat you, regard your lunch with the gravest suspicion.
Lovely Luke.
Lovely Hill House.
Lovely way to use up a morning when I should be working on my notes.
You know, I wonder, why has it been so quiet since that night? It's nerve-wracking. Almost worse than having something happen.
It's not us doing the waiting, it's the house biding its time.
Until we feel secure, as Luke suggested.
I wonder how long it can wait before it pounces. I'm almost tempted to write a letter to my sister. You know, having a perfectly splendid time here at jolly old Hill House.
You really must plan to bring the entire family next summer. We sleep under blankets every night.
The air is so bracing, particularly in the doorway of the nursery.
You go around all the time just glad to be alive. Or Still alive, that is.
There's something going on every minute.
It's so far from the madding crowd. What is it, Doctor? Too much female leavening?
I broke my own first rule. I sent him alone. I'd better make sure.
It's all right. I'm safe enough. But come into the long hallway. I found something more interesting than coffee. Do you have your flashlight?
Did you read it?
Chalk. It was written in chalk. How strange. We must copy it exactly as it is.
I already have. Help. Eleanor. Come home. I've never seen such enormous writing. It stretches down the entire hall.
Please wipe it off. Please, it's crazy.
Crazy is the word, all right? Just take it easy. Luke will see that it's wiped off.
Of course, right away. I'll ask Mrs. Dudley.
But it's crazy.
What? Now you listen to me. Just because your name
That's
is...
it. It knows my name, doesn't it? It knows my name.
Stop that! Will you? It could have said any of us. It knows all our names.
Did you write it? Please tell me I won't be angry, I promise you. I just want to know that it was only a joke to frighten me.
You know that none of us wrote it.
Luke, you wrote it, didn't you, when you went out?
Listen, you think I go around writing your name everywhere? Scrawling Eleanor, Eleanor all over the walls? I've got more sense. Behave yourself.
Then why me? Have I done something to attract attention more than anyone else?
I don't think so, dear. Maybe you wrote it yourself.
You think I want to see my name scribbled all over this foul house? You think I like being singled out?
It was asking for help, did you notice? Maybe the spirit of the poor bedeviled companion has found a means of communication at last. Maybe she was just waiting for some drab, timid...
Maybe it was only addressed to me because no appeal for help could possibly get through that iron selfishness of yours.
And maybe, of course, you wrote it yourself.
Don't say that, do you hear? Don't!
That's enough, Eleanor.
How dare you! How dare you!
No. Dear, I am sorry.
I'm sorry. I was frightened.
Of course you were. We understand.
I really thought you were going to crack up. I would have in your place. I was just trying to shock you out of it. We can't afford to lose you, you know?
Thanks. I guess I was sort of shaky for a minute.
I wondered if you two were going to come to blows until I realized what Theodora was doing. Anger overcomes fear.
Long-lost cousins. Fighting.
Try to put it out of your mind, my dear. Remember our agreement. We must work together, keep accurate notes, and take nothing personally. Our purpose is objective and scientific.
I know. Hysterical females aren't much use to you.
You're hardly that, I assure you. But you have had a rather nasty shock. Why don't you and Theodora stay here off the firing line for a bit while Luke and I go up and measure that very intriguing cold spot upstairs? Will you join me?
Delighted. Maybe we'll catch the mad scribbler, chalk in hand.
I hardly think so. You know where we'll be. If you want us for any reason, call out. You promise?
Aye, aye, sir.
I never really thought you did it. Honestly. What a silly fool I am.
I don't blame you a bit. I would have been petrified in her place. Now, let's forget it. Have you seen this? Dr. Montague says it's a scrapbook that Hugh Crane put together for his daughters, for their education and enlightenment of all things. Come on. Sit down and put your mind on someone else's troubles for a bit. Lesson 1. Humility. Illustrated by a delightful Goya etching of some poor thing being disemboweled.
That's awful.
But there's more. An inscription by Hugh Crane himself. Honor thy father and mother, upon whom a heavy charge has been laid, that they lead their children in innocence and righteousness along the fearful narrow path to everlasting bliss. He should have added, or else.
Poor kids.
And next comes hell. Don't look if you're squeamish.
I think I'll skip hell.
You're wise. It's an illustration of one of the less attractive deaths, with some words of wisdom about agony and screaming and undying pain.
They probably read it aloud every night at bedtime.
And now the 7 deadly sins. Looks like the old boy drew these himself.
He really put his heart into gluttony. I'm not sure I'll ever be hungry again.
Wait till lust. He really outdid himself. Here.
Good heavens.
He must have drawn it himself.
For children.
Their very own scrapbook. The last page is the nicest, I think. He signed it in his own blood. Want to see it?
No, thank you.
No? It's really quite edifying. Something about sacred pacts being written in blood, and instructions to his daughters about living virtuously and avoiding the narrow pitfalls of this world. In blood! Can you imagine it?
He must have enjoyed it. Signing his name in his own blood.
Not exactly healthy work for a grown man.
But they were very small when their father left Hill House. The girls, I mean, maybe he never read it to them.
Oh. Well, I'm sure he did. Leaning over their cradles, spitting out the words so they would take root in their little minds. You, Crane, you were a dirty old man, and you made a dirty old house! If you can still hear me from anywhere, I would like to tell you to your face that I genuinely hope you'll spend all of eternity in that foul, horrible hell you pictured so accurately for your children, and may you never stop burning for a minute! Do you hear it? What? Do I hear what?
It's laughing. Why is it laughing?
Stop! Do you hear
dear. You're perfectly safe now.
What? Theo? Weren't you here with me, Theo?
I went to get Dr. Montague. I didn't want to leave you alone. I had no choice.
Alone? You left me alone.
No. I'm sorry.
Then whose hand was I holding? Do you hear me? Whose hand was I holding? Oh, let her go! Let her go! You hear me? Let her go!
Dear, please, you must control yourself.
But it's in there. Do you understand? It's hurting a child. We must do something.
Of course we will, I assure you, but we must be calm. We're of no use if we lose our heads. That is what Hill House wants. There, my dear.
Poor Nell. You have had a warning.
Yes, what is it, Mrs. Dudley?
Mrs. Montague is here.
What?
Should she come in?
Mrs. Montague? Of course, I'd completely forgotten. My dear, how nice you got here. We were worried about you.
I said I'd be here this morning, didn't I? Have you ever known me not to come when I said I would? I brought Arthur.
Oh, yes, Arthur.
Well, somebody had to drive me. I hope you didn't expect me to come all the way out here by myself. You know perfectly well how tired I get.
My dear, these are my friends who have been staying with me in Hill House these past few days. Theodora, Eleanor Vance, Luke Sanderson. My wife, Mrs. Montague.
How do you do? We'll need someone to help with the luggage.
Of course, my dear.
And I trust you planned on us for lunch?
Oh yes, I alerted Mrs. Dudley.
I said lunch at 1 o'clock. That's what I agreed to do.
What was that? Oh, I see. You were mimicking that ghastly woman who let us in. Let's see, you're,
Theodora.
Yes, well, I will get to know all of your names very soon. This gentleman is Arthur Parker. He drove me here because I dislike driving by myself. Arthur, these are John's friends.
How do you do?
I don't suppose we could get some help with our bags now.
It would be a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm to be in your most haunted room, of course. Arthur can go anywhere. The blue suitcase is mine, young man, and the small attaché case.
The nursery, I think, for Mrs. Montague. The nursery seems to be one source of disturbance. There is a definite cold spot in the doorway.
Is that all you have to report? It does seem to me you haven't been very methodical. And I'll wager you've done nothing with planchette or automatic writing. And I don't imagine either of these young women has any mediumistic gifts.
Well,
No, the brown bags are Arthur's. And the golf clubs. He brought them just in case.
Just in case of what?
as I mentioned, there is a very pronounced cold spot outside the nursery door.
Yes, dear, you said that. Isn't that young man going to help with Arthur's bags too? You do seem to be in a state of confusion here, don't you? By this time, I certainly would have thought you'd had things in some kind of order. Any figures materialize?
Well, there have been decided manifestations.
Yes, well, I'm here now and we'll get things going right. Where's Arthur to put the car?
There's an empty stable in back of the house. He can put it around later.
Nonsense. I do not believe in putting things off, as you know perfectly well. Perhaps one of these young ladies could show him the way?
The young ladies had a rather shocking experience just before you arrived. I think they'd rather stay here for the time being.
I must say, John, I do sense a very definite nervousness here, which is not good. I deplore fear in these matters. You know that those who've passed beyond expect to see us smiling and happy. They want us to think of them lovingly. The spirits dwelling here may actually be suffering because they are aware that you are afraid of them.
We can talk about it later, my dear.
No, of course. What a shame I wasn't here when whatever it was happened.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Not at all. Golf clubs?
Now perhaps you would like to freshen up before lunch. I'm sure that Mrs. Dudley has left something splendid for us.
I wonder how long she's going to stay.
Maybe her suitcase is filled with ectoplasm.
What was that?
They wondered how long you could be with us. The longer the better, of course.
Well, you know that Arthur has to get back to his school. Arthur is a headmaster. He generously canceled his appointments for Monday, so we'll leave that afternoon. That way Arthur can be back for classes on Tuesday.
But today is only Saturday.
Isn't that fortunate? That gives us better than 2 full days together. Now, hadn't we better think about lunch?
I do hope the food is plain. I'm a meat and potatoes man myself. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't read trash. Bad example for the boys at school. They look up to one of it, you know.
I'm sure they must have modeled themselves on you.
Get a bad sort now and then. No taste for sports, you know. Moping in corners. Crybabies. We knocked that out of them fast enough.
Toughen them up.
Exactly.
Come, Arthur. There'll be time for chit-chat later. We'd better begin our preparations if we expect to be ready for tonight's work.
Just what do you have in mind for tonight?
I realize you'd never dream about going about these things with any sort of system. But you must admit, John, that in this area I have simply more of an instinctive understanding. Women do, you know. At least, some women.
Dear.
Therefore, I've set up a definite plan of action. Tonight, Arthur will patrol. I brought him along for that purpose. I shall recline in your haunted room with only a nightlight burning and endeavor to get in touch with the elements disturbing this house. I never sleep when there are troubled spirits about.
Got to go about these things the right way. It never pays to aim low. Tell my fellows that.
And then I think that perhaps after lunch we'll have a little session with Planchette. Just Arthur and myself, of course. The rest of you I can see are not ready yet. You drive the spirits away. We'll need a quiet room.
The library, perhaps. It's one of the gloomier rooms. Might be teeming with spirits.
It should do. Books are frequently very good carriers, you know. I hope the room has been well dusted. Arthur sometimes sneezes.
Mrs. Dudley keeps the entire house in perfect order.
The library it is then. And after the session, I shall require a glass of milk and perhaps a small cake. Crackers should do if they're not too heavily salted.
As you wish, my dear. Now I'll show you to your rooms.
No need, thank you. Come, Arthur, we've much to do.
I think I'm going to be simply crazy about Mrs. Montague.
I don't know. Arthur is more to my taste.
Please, sir, who is Planchette?
The imbeciles. I hope they don't upset everything with their silly tampering. Oh, planchette. It's a device similar to the Ouija board, a kind of spirit writing. My wife believes it to be a way to communicate with intangible beings. Although, to my way of thinking, the only intangible beings who ever communicate through those things are in the imaginations of the people running them. Spirit writing indeed. Balderdash.
A superstition.
What would the fellows at school think?
No. Dear, you suddenly look so much better.
Positively radiant.
And I'm starved. It must be almost time for lunch.
The powers of Hill House are at work again. The storm cloud has passed. Shall we adjourn to the dining room?
I can't wait. Let's eat it all before Arthur and Mrs. Montague get there.
You devil! You'll have to fight me for it!
And me.
My children. My children are back with me again.
Planchette was very kind tonight. We've got a good deal of information for you. This house is definitely frequented by visitors.
You don't say.
Quite a splendid sitting, really. Very tangible results.
We've got a good deal of information for you. John,
Yes. I was listening, I assure you, my dear.
I hope so. Now then, Planchette was very insistent about a nun. Have you learned anything about a nun, John? Have any of you?
A nun in Hill House? Not likely.
Planchette felt very strongly about a nun. Or perhaps something of the sort. A dark, vague figure even has been seen in or near the house or appeared to the villagers at night and frightened them.
The figure of a nun is fairly common.
John, if you please, I assume you are suggesting that I'm mistaken or that Planchette is mistaken. I assure you this is not the case. A nun was most specifically suggested.
I'm merely trying to suggest, my dear, that the specter of a nun is far and away the most common form of appearance. There has never been such a thing connected with Hill House.
John, if you please, may I continue? Or is Planchette to be dismissed without a hearing? Thank you. Now then, there is also a name spelled variously as Helen or Helene or Elena. Who might that be?
My dear, many people have
Now,
lived...
Helen brought us a warning against a mysterious monk. Now, when a monk and a nun both turn up in one house...
I expect the place was built on an older site. Previous influences prevailing, of course.
Sounds very much like broken vows to me. Very much.
Expect they had a lot of that back then, you know. Temptation, probably.
Oh.
I hardly think...
I dare say she was walled up alive. The nun, I mean. They always did that. You have no idea the messages I've gotten from nuns walled up alive.
There is no case on record of any nun ever being...
May I point out once more that I myself have received messages from such nuns? Or is it possible that I'm mistaken again, John?
Of course not, my dear. I concede. It's your game.
You're a worthy opponent, Doctor. Shall we have another go at it later?
As you wish.
They usually put them away with one candle and a crust of bread. It's a horrible thing to do when you think about it.
No nun was ever walled up alive. It's all legend, imagination.
All right, John, we won't quarrel over it. Just understand, however, that sometimes purely materialistic views give way before facts. Now, it is a proven fact that among the visitors troubling this house are none and also...
What else was there? I'm so interested in hearing what Planchette had to say.
Nothing about you, young man. Although one of the young ladies present may hear something of interest. Oh, yes. Helen wants us to search the cellar for an old well.
You think Helen was buried alive?
I doubt it. More likely we'll find evidence of the missing nun.
And more likely we'll find 80 years of rubbish.
John, I cannot understand the skepticism in you of all people. After all, you did come to this house to collect evidence of supernatural activity. And when I've given you a full account of the causes and an indication of where to start looking, you're positively scornful.
We have no authority to dig up the cellar. My lease specifically forbids any tampering. We are students, not vandals.
But Arthur would be glad to.
No! My lease specifically forbids it.
Dear me, how patient one must be sometimes. But I do want to read you the little passage we received towards the end. It was just after the message about the flowers you were to send to your sick aunt. Planchette has a control named Marigot who's taken a genuine personal interest in Arthur. Brings him word from distant relatives and so on.
How, nice.
She's not seriously ill, you understand.
Oh.
Marigot was most reassuring.
Oh, here it is, Arthur. You read the questions and I'll read the answers.
Off we go. Now let me see. Start right about here.
With who are you?
Check. Who are you?
Nell.
Nell who?
Eleanor, Nellie, Nell, Nell. They sometimes do that. Repeat a word over and over again to make sure it comes across all right. Go on.
What do you want?
Home.
Do you want to go home?
Want to be home.
What are you doing here?
Waiting.
Waiting for what?
Home.
There it is again. If they like a word, they use it over and over again just for the sound of it.
Ordinarily, we never ask why. It tends to confuse Planchette. But this time we were bold and came right out with it. Arthur.
Why?
Mother.
Is Hill House your home?
Home.
Are you suffering?
No answer here. Sometimes they dislike admitting to pain.
Stoical. Can we help you?
No. Lost, lost, lost. You see, one word repeated again. I've had one word go on to cover an entire page sometimes.
What do you want?
Mother.
Why?
Child.
Where is your mother?
Home.
Where is your home?
Lost, lost, lost. After that, there was nothing but gibberish.
Never known Planchette so cooperative. Quite an experience, really.
But why pick on Nell? Your fool Planchette has no right to send messages to people without permission, or...
Well, you'll never get results by abusing Planchette.
Wait, you're Nell? We thought you were Nell.
So?
Well, it doesn't affect my readings, of course. But I do think we might have been correctly introduced. I'm sure Planchette knows the difference between you. But I do not care to be misled.
Don't feel neglected. We'll bury you alive.
When I get a message from that thing, I want it to be about hidden treasure. None of this nonsense about sending flowers to an aunt.
Why do you think all that was sent to me?
Really, dear, I couldn't begin to say. Perhaps you're more receptive psychically than you realize, although how you could be, I don't know. All these days here without picking the simplest message up from beyond. The fire wants stirring.
Nell doesn't want messages from beyond.
Nell wants her warm bed and a little sleep.
And perhaps a spot of sherry first. Let's say we all have one.
Fine idea. May I?
None for us, thanks. We must keep clear heads tonight. Come, Arthur, we better be on our way.
Right up.
Arthur will patrol. Every hour, regularly, he'll make a round of the upstairs rooms.
I shall have a drawn revolver, a flashlight, and a loud whistle, in case I should observe anything worth your notice or require company. You may all sleep quietly, I assure you. I'm an excellent shot.
And I shall be in the nursery, awake. It is such a blessing to know that the spirits dwelling in this house are only waiting for the opportunity to tell their stories and free themselves from the burden of their sorrow. Shall we go?
My dear, are you sure? I only wonder whether you ought to have someone with you.
Really, John, how many, many hours have I sat up in a room with those who have passed beyond? How can I make you perceive that there is no danger where there's nothing but love and sympathetic understanding? I'm here to help these unfortunate beings.
I know, but leave your door open, just in case.
Unlocked, if you insist.
And I'll be right down the hall, and if you need anything, I can hear you.
These others need your protection so much more than I. They're so very vulnerable with their hard hearts and unseeing eyes.
Be careful all the same. Good night.
Good night. Please do not be afraid. No matter what happens, remember, I am here.
Good night.
Good night. Happy hunting.
To all the poor unfortunates in the afterworld, may they congregate tonight in the nursery.
I swear she's going to blow this entire house wide open with that perfect love business. If ever there was a place with no use for perfect love, it's Hill House.
Having Arthur prowling about with a loaded revolver doesn't make me any happier either. He's out to shoot somebody.
I don't like it. We better stay here together for a while. Something's going to happen. I don't like it.
I just hope she hasn't gone and made anything mad with her planchette.
She is really a good wife and an excellent woman in most respects. This is practically her only vice.
Perhaps she feels she's helping you with your work.
Steady now. Be calm.
It's so cold. It's coming again.
It's nowhere near the nursery, that's for sure.
Really? Next summer I must go somewhere else.
There are disadvantages everywhere. In the mountains you get mosquitoes.
Oh.
I better go out there. She might be frightened.
It never hurt us. It won't hurt them.
I only hope she doesn't try to do anything about it.
I'm beginning to feel like an old hand at this. Warm enough?
Brandy, anyone? My passion for spirits.
Oh Lord, not that pun.
Sorry, but I no longer think of it as a pun.
It can't get in. It can't get in. Don't let it get in.
It knows we're here.
Purest love. Purest love.
I hope they closed their doors. Are you all right? Theo, are you all right?
Hanging on. I don't know about now.
Keep warm. We haven't seen it all yet.
Malcolm! Is that what you want? Tell me where and how!
She's all right. I think.
How are you, my dear?
What happened?
It was just another night. But I sense that you've had enough of it. In the morning,
No, I'm fine. Honestly, I am. Are the others all right?
oh, they're perfectly safe, I'm sure. I can't believe my wife stirred up that storm. But one more word about pure love.
But what happened?
Hill House went dancing, taking us along on a mad midnight fling.
Turning somersaults as it went.
I don't seem to remember. And yet I wasn't afraid. I know I wasn't.
No, my dear, I don't think that you were. But I wish it wasn't so.
Come on, baby. Theo will help you get settled for bed, wash your face. Help you get settled for a good night's sleep. Uninterrupted, I hope.
For all of us, with dear Arthur standing guard.
Oh, man.
And looking for activity in the wrong places. I mean, I don't believe that they heard any of that. I don't think they have the slightest idea that anything went on. Hill House didn't mean it for them.
I hate writing these notes. It makes me feel like a darn fool trying to explain everything without sounding weird myself.
It's all in a good cause, my dear. Think of the stir my book will make in scientific circles.
I wonder what this mysterious book will be like. Will we all be in it?
Well, of course. You'll all turn up as earnest young psychic researchers.
But these post-dinner sessions in the dining room, it's like study hall.
Well, how else can I keep my chickens together?
And on a faintly serious track.
Oh dear. Nell is displeased again. It's your fault, Luke. You're entirely too frivolous and silly.
I shall try to reform.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
No, I mean it. After all, Hill House will be mine someday, with all its untold treasures and secrets. I'll never make a proper lord of the manor unless I learn to be more serious. Or perhaps I should say sinister.
Sinister by all means if you want to fit in around here.
What about your career as a bullfighter? Would you give that up for Hill House?
I think one would be good training for the other. It helps to be fearless, living in a house like this.
And if you shouldn't survive, Nell here would be glad to look after Hill House for you. Wouldn't you, Nell? She'd like to stay here and write on all the walls.
That's over and forgotten, Theo.
Actually, I can't imagine anyone wanting to own a place like this. Far too gloomy, if you ask me.
Granted, but intriguing too. The fact is, you never really know what you're going to want until you suddenly see it clearly. If I never had a chance of owning Hill House, I might feel differently. But now I think it's
I predict a lonely life. This is hardly the sort of threshold to carry a bride over.
Oh well. What do people really want with other people anyway? What use are other people? A game, Doctor? I feel infallible tonight.
I'll risk it.
There's no risk, as you'll see. If you'll excuse me, ladies.
What use are other people indeed?
I sometimes wonder myself. It was my fault my mother died. I'm more sure of it every day. She knocked on the wall and called me, and I never woke up. I ought to have brought her the medicine I always did before. But this time she called me and I never woke up.
All that should be over and forgotten too.
I've wondered ever since if I did wake up. If I woke up and heard her and just went back to sleep, it would have been so easy to do. I wondered about it.
You worry too much, Nell. You probably like thinking it was all your fault.
It was going to happen, sooner or later in any case. And it was sure to be my fault, no matter what.
But if it hadn't happened, you'd never have come to Hill House.
I'd have regretted that. But I still don't know what happens next.
Why, home, of course. Back to your own little apartment. What else?
No,
Well,
I'm coming with you.
coming where with me?
Back home. Back with you. I'm going to follow you home.
Why?
I've never had anyone to care about, except Mother. I want to be someplace where I belong.
I'm not in the habit of taking home stray cats.
I am a kind of stray cat, aren't I?
You have your own home. You'll be glad enough to get back to it when the time comes. We'll all be glad to get home again.
I'll come, you know. I will.
Nell, dear, you have your own life and I have mine. We'll write each other, of course, but Hill House isn't forever, you know?
I can get a job. I won't be in your way.
I don't understand. Do you always go where you're not wanted?
I've never been wanted anywhere. Perhaps that's the problem.
May I suggest that a good night's sleep might be in order? I think we're all a bit tired after last night.
I know I am. Too tired to squabble over ridiculous things.
I'm serious, Theo.
And so am I. And I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
No more talk. Promise?
Promise. We can settle it in the morning.
Good Lord, you are a pest!
Never make decisions in anger, Theo.
I must say, I really must say, this is most infuriating.
My dear!
You had the decency, the common decency. After all, I did come all this way just you out, and so did Arthur. I certainly never expected to meet with such cynicism and incredulity from you of all people. And these... All I ask is some small minimum of trust. Just a little bit of sympathy for all I'm trying to do. But instead you disbelieve, you scoff, you mock, you jeer.
Whatever is the matter?
Planchette will not speak to me tonight. Not one word have I had from Planchette as a direct result of your sneering and skepticism. It may be silent for weeks thanks to you. The least I expected was a little respect.
My dear, I am certain that none of us has knowingly interfered.
Mocking and jeering, were you not? Planchette knows. These young people, pert and insolent.
Mrs. Montague, really?
Never seen her so upset. Miserable experience waiting for Planchette. So easily offended, of course. Sensitive to atmosphere.
It's simply that it's a most delicate and intricate piece of machinery. The slightest air of disbelief offends it. How would you feel if people refused to believe in you?
I don't know, but I'm too sleepy to figure it out now. I'm going to bed. I'll think beautiful thoughts about Planchette as I drift off. Would that help? I'm coming now. I don't want to go upstairs alone, even filled with the purest love as I am.
I'm with you. Good night, all.
Good night. Sleep tight.
Good night, sweet ladies.
They can rest, of course. They don't feel the urgency which I do. But why must they scoff?
Really, my dear, I think you exaggerate.
I don't know how they could get much sleep in this place anyway. Food's so rich around here. Keeps you awake. If I had my way about it, there'd be no more fancy sauces. Teach my fellows it's a mark of a cad. Fancy food and women waiting on you. My fellows wait on themselves. Mark of a man.
And what else do you teach them?
Teach? You mean like algebra, Latin? Leave all that kind of thing to the masters.
And how many fellows are there in your school?
How many? Well, we have a crack tennis team. Absolutely top hole. Let me see. Golf, baseball, track, cricket. Didn't guess we played cricket, did you? Then we have swimming, volleyball. Some fellows go out for everything, though. All-around types. Maybe 70 altogether.
Arthur, that's enough shop talk for now. We've got more important things that need our attention.
Yes, of course. Silly me get to rambling on about school.
I won't let the taunts of unbelievers discourage me. I won't. The poor souls wandering restlessly here need my understanding and love. I shall not stop trying to come to their aid.
You mean another go at Planchette despite all?
Precisely.
No, I don't think.
I do think. I owe it to them not to let you defeat me. Come, Arthur. Perhaps we've cleared the air a bit.
That's the spirit. Can't understand you fellows getting all nervy about this place. Sat up last night with my revolver and not a mouse stirred. Well, only sound was a branch tapping my window. Nearly drove me crazy.
We'll be in the library if anyone cares.
Absolute rubbish, the whole business. But harmless, I'm sure. If I thought otherwise, I would send her home tomorrow, and that nincompoop with her.
Checkmate.
Yes. What? You're not going to get away with that again? I promise you not if we have to sit here all night.
Mother? Mother? Where? Mother? You're here somewhere, aren't you, Mother? I'll come, Mother. I do hear you this time. Are you out there? Tell me where. In here. Is this where you are? I want to come, Mother! Mother, dear. I'm sorry for what happened. And I won't leave you again, I promise. In here. Is this where you are? Please answer. Oh yes, I do want to come. I belong here now.
Eleanor! Eleanor! Dr. Montague, it's never been a look before. I don't like it!
She's in there, on the stairs. You must be careful not to frighten her. She could fall.
The stairs have run away from the wall.
Eleanor, can you hear me? Turn around very carefully and come slowly down the steps. Move very, very slowly, Eleanor. Hold on to the railing all the time. Do you understand? Now turn and come down. She heard me. She's coming. Eleanor, don't move. Stay perfectly still.
What on earth is going on out here? You woke us up with your shouting.
It's Eleanor. She's in the tower.
Whatever for? Make her come down so we can go back to bed. Arthur, make her come down at once.
See here.
You stay where you are and put that gun away, for God's sake. I'd better get her down. I think I weigh less than you do.
You be careful, my boy. The stairs may not hold both of you.
Of course they won't. You'll have the whole thing down on our heads.
Eleanor, stand still. Don't move. Stay perfectly quiet.
Now, do as he says, please!
Steady, Eleanor. Steady.
Move very slowly. Do what Luke says. Don't be frightened, Nell. You'll be all right.
Only a little further. That's it. That's it. Good work, my boy.
I ran up. I ran up all the way. She was calling me, but I couldn't get out. The upper door was nailed shut.
Damn right it was. And lucky for you, too.
It's all over now. You're safe with us. Come here and rest a moment.
Does anybody agree with me in thinking that this young woman has caused quite enough trouble for one night? I, for one, would like to go back to bed, and so would Arthur.
I don't think you quite understand. Hill House.
After this ridiculous performance, Hill House will do nothing. There is no help for manifestation now, let me tell you. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'll say goodnight. Arthur?
Doctor, I think Luke was scared.
He most certainly was. So scared he almost didn't get himself down from there. Nell, what an imbecile you are.
I would be inclined to agree with Luke. But thank God we got here when we did.
I suppose you had to do it. No.
I'm all right. I just came down to get my book. Honestly, I did.
And the tower door was open? Why was it open, Eleanor? It's always been locked before. And who called you? What force was so strong it almost drew you to your death? Suppose the upper door had been loose. You don't have to tell us. Perhaps you can't. But tomorrow, you must go home. I should have sent you away long before now. I felt this coming.
No! I can't. This is where I belong now. I want to stay.
That is exactly why you must go. Don't you understand? I only hope it isn't too late already. Too late for you. Too late for all of us.
She's all packed. She said I was to tell you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dudley. Mr. Sanderson has offered to help with the luggage.
Just as well. Too heavy for me. Anyway, I don't wait on people.
I know, Mrs. Dudley, it's not what you agreed to do.
Will that be all?
Yes, thank you. Would you mind terribly, my boy?
Arthur and I have things all worked out. Right, Arthur? I attend to the bags and he'll bring the car around. Shall we?
Right up. I got as far as Marigold's message about Aunt Beatrice.
You know which car?
Of course. Got the key after breakfast. Have to be organized. Tell my fellows that.
Mark of a man, I'm sure.
I really don't understand why you're being so secretive about your notes, John. I've always been more than willing to share my findings with you, despite your patronizing attitude.
You have your methods, I have mine. I see no reason to confuse matters by arguing over whose approach is correct.
My theory was that in comparing notes, it might be possible to gain a broader range of understanding. I wouldn't think you'd object to that.
I don't, in principle.
But you place more confidence in what happens to that neurotic girl than in Planchette. Is that it?
In a sense, and I don't think that neurotic is quite the accurate term. There are dangerous forces at work here in Hill House. Forces quite alien to your love-starved, benevolent spirits.
Oh, pooh. For a man of science, you really amaze me at times.
Well, try to contain yourself. When my book is finished, I will give you an advance copy, and then you can debate my findings as much as you choose. In the meantime, I must do as I think best, and getting Eleanor away from here is the first item of business.
Really, John, you are exasperating.
Ah, my dear, we hate to see you go, but you will thank us in time. Arthur's bringing your car around now.
I don't know what to say.
It's all decided. You've been here quite long enough.
He's right. No. You've got to get away from here.
But-
Madam! You are no longer welcome as my guest.
Perhaps Arthur should drive her back to the city. He could see that she gets there safely.
Gets where? Gets where?
Right home, of course.
Your little place, Nell. Your cozy little apartment where all your things are.
Apartment. I haven't any apartment. I made it up. I sleep on a cot at my sister's in the baby's room. I haven't any home, no place at all. And I can't go back to my sister's because I stole her car to get here.
Nell.
It's true. Everything in all the world that belongs to me is in a carton in the back of the car. Some books, some things I had when I was a little girl, and a watch my mother gave me. So you see, there's no place you can send me. Anyway, I want to stay here.
I had Arthur call her sister. I must say she asked first about the car. A rather vulgar person, I gather. But I do think, John, that it was very wrong of you to let her steal her sister's car to come here.
My dear!
At any rate, she is expected. Her sister was quite annoyed, seeing they were to go off on their own vacation. I still think someone ought to see her safely into their hands.
It would be a mistake, believe me. She must be allowed to forget everything about Hill House as quickly and as completely as possible. And by herself. Once away from here, she will be all right again. Can you find your way home?
The house wants me to stay. I'm sorry. Really, I am.
You'll go to Hillsdale, then turn east on Route 5. At Ashton, you join Route 39, and that will take you home. It's the best thing for you, believe me.
I'm really terribly sorry.
You can't take any more chances. Don't you understand? I realize now what a terrible risk I've been asking of you all. Now, do you remember the directions?
Look, I wasn't afraid. I really wasn't afraid. I was happy. Happy. I don't want to go away from here.
I won't be responsible for what might happen next. That's final. You will forget all this very soon, I promise you.
How long have we been here?
Almost a week. Why?
It's the only time anything ever really happened to me. I liked it.
That is just why you are leaving in such a hurry.
I won't go away.
You will go away, right now.
Look, thank you for bringing me down last night. That was wrong of me, I know it now, and you were very brave.
I was indeed, but I'm glad to see you going now, because I don't think I could ever do it again.
Well, it seems to me that if you're going, you best get on with it. We've got more important things to do than stand around here arguing when we all know you've got to go. Anyway, it's quite a trip back to the city, and your sister's waiting to go on her vacation.
Just say goodbye and go. That's the best way. Don't hold with tearful farewells.
Arthur would be glad to join.
No, she must be allowed to leave the way she came, alone.
And who do I thank for a lovely time? Doctor, please, doctor.
I'm sorry.
Drive carefully now.
You can't make me leave. You brought me here.
And I'm sending you away.
Goodbye.
Have a good trip.
Theo,
thought you weren't going to say goodbye to me? No. Please, be happy. Someday, things really will be all right again, and we'll write letters and visit each other and have fun talking over the crazy things that went on in Hill House. Come on. We'll go with you to your car.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Mrs. Montague. Arthur. Goodbye, Doctor. I hope your book is very successful. Luke. Goodbye.
No. Please take care.
Goodbye. They will watch me down the drive as far as they can see, until I am out of sight and they think I'm really gone. But I won't go. Hill House is not as easy as they are. Just by telling me to go away, they can't make me leave. Not if Hill House means me to stay. Go away, Eleanor. We don't want you anymore. Not in our Hill House. You can't stay here. But I can. I can. They don't make the rules around here. I won't go. I belong here in Hill House, Hill House, Hill House, Hill House. They can't run fast enough to stop me. Not this time. I wonder who will notice first. I'm really doing it. All by myself. I really am. Now, at last, this is me. Why am I doing this? Why won't somebody stop me? Somebody help me! Eleanor!
Lord, she hit the tree. Quickly, my boy!
Hill House stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there, walked alone.